Daniel Groves in State of Ohio versus Jessica Groves. Case statement, call their next witness.
Your Honor, the state would call Kristen Proctor France.
Can you please raise your right hand for me, please? Do you solemnly swear the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes.
And please have a seat. Ms. Hutchinson, you may inquire.
Thank you, Your Honor. Ma'am, if you would, introduce yourself to the jury and spell your last name for our record.
Kristen Proctor France, Procterfrantz.
Ms. France, what is your occupation?
I'm a social worker at Somc Medical Center.
Okay. And how long have you been so employed?
5.5 years, 6 years in June.
Okay. Were you employed in social work prior to that?
Yes.
Your employment with SOMC?
I've had my master's since 2011, so master's in social work since 2011, so I've been a social worker for 9 years.
Okay. I'm going to need you to speak up just a little bit so we can hear you back here. If you would explain to the members of the jury what some of your job duties are as a social worker for Southern Ohio Medical Center.
Currently I'm working in the emergency department, so we do psychosocial assessments on those with mental illness, do substance use assessments on those that come in under the influence of drugs. We do CPS referrals on kids that come in that we need to make referrals on. On the inpatient floors, we do discharge planning, set patients up with things they need like medical equipment, nursing home placements, that kind of thing. On the maternity floors, we're consulted for various reasons. Adoption cases, moms with history or current substance use during their pregnancy, 3 or less prenatal visits, just anytime the nurses have any concerns regarding the care of the baby with the parents, various other reasons.
Okay.
Could you just ask her to talk just a little bit more, with like frozen voice back here is a little bit hard.
You see the deputy in the back of the courtroom?
Yes.
Your volume needs to be so he can hear you
Okay.
clear back there. Okay?
Thank you.
And if you're too loud, no one's going to complain.
Let me direct your attention to the time frames of January 10th to January 15th, 2019. Were you working as a social worker at Southern Ohio Medical Center at that time?
I was working in the emergency department that weekend on January 12th and January 13th.
Okay. And did you have an opportunity to receive a referral from the nursery regarding baby Dylan Groves?
On January 13th, I received a call from the nursery stating baby Dylan was ready for discharge and they needed to know what the plan was for discharge. I reviewed mom's medical chart, the documentation from the social worker, the drug screens, the things that we review when social work's involved in a case. I seen that CPS hadn't notified us what the plan was, so I called South County CPS.
Let me interrupt you just for a second. What is the goal of social services at that point?
Make sure the baby's discharged to the safest environment.
Okay. And you said you review mother's medical chart? And baby's
Yes.
medical chart? And then any correspondence or notes from other social workers that have been on staff or on shift?
Yes.
Okay. And you said as a result of that you contacted Children's Services?
Yes.
Okay. If you would explain to the members of the jury why you contacted them.
One of the other social workers did the maternal substance use assessment because mom was positive, didn't have prenatal care. So we did the assessment, we made a referral to CPS. The on-call social worker that day was Lauren Johnson. She called me back and said that she had been on the unit for 5 hours on Friday with the father.
Let me interrupt you just for a second. You said you guys do a maternal substance use assessment. Explain to the jury what that is.
We ask their use during pregnancy. Do they have everything they need for the baby? Their mental health history. Are they breast or bottle feeding? Do they have other kids? Do they have prior CPS involvement? Various things like that. Find out their history.
Okay. And are the answers to those questions kept in a medical record or document at the hospital?
Mom's chart under maternal substance use assessment form.
Okay. And was that done in this case?
Yes.
Okay. Let me hand you what's previously been marked as State's Exhibit 4. Actually, State's Exhibit 1. And ask you if you recognize these exhibits. So we have 1 and 4. and to the side. This microphone feeds into her headset, so if you could be gentle with. All right. You first look at Stacy's Exhibit 1 for identification.
This is mom's medical chart.
Okay, and how do you recognize that as the mother's medical chart?
This is what we review whenever we get a consult on a mom or a baby in maternity or nursery at the hospital.
Okay, and is that the format in which all patient medical records are kept?
Yes.
Okay, is there an identifying patient name and number there?
Yes.
Okay, and do they identify as the defendant Jessica Groves?
Yes.
Okay. And you said the maternal substance abuse assessment would be in her record, is that right? Can you locate that within that folder?
Okay.
Okay. And if you would explain to the members of the jury what information you're asking for and what information you're receiving in regards to that assessment.
Mary Jo Halter, another social worker at SOMC, did the initial meeting with mom. She asked like where she lives, the father's name, other children, their other children's names and ages, anybody else living in the home, if there's a history of CPS involvement, the history of the father as regarding to substance abuse, domestic violence, mom's substance abuse treatment history, and current use currently or during any time during the pregnancy or previously, mental health and psychiatric treatment history, financial legal problems, participation in care with a newborn, bonding with a newborn. We usually get that information from the nursery staff and maternity staff if they have any concerns whatsoever with mom and baby. And then we document our recommendations. In this case, we made a referral to CPS.
Okay, let me take you back to substance abuse history by the mother, reported by the mother. If you would explain to the members of the jury what was reported in her medical record regarding substance abuse.
It says that she says she is done with drugs and doesn't need treatment.
Okay. Why do you guys take that information? What's the purpose of taking substance abuse history?
So we know what the mom's count of her drug abuse history is.
Okay. And does any of that relate to the care of the baby or the safety of the baby as far as
Yeah, so we know if the
social services is
mom
concerned?
has exposed the baby to substance use during her pregnancy.
Okay. And you said that you guys contacted Children's Services.
Yes.
Okay. What concerns did Southern Ohio Medical Center Social Services have in relation to the safety of the discharge of baby Groves?
Mom and baby both were positive at delivery and birth. So we know that if there are two positives during pregnancy or birth delivery, then it should warrant a custody removal of the infant. And we did not feel it was safe for the baby to be discharged home to mom when she was actively using throughout her pregnancy, and the mom and baby both were positive at the hospital.
Okay. And so what efforts did Social Services make to ensure safe discharge of baby Dylan?
Mary Jo made the initial referral. CPS didn't let us know what their plan was before the weekend, so when I got the call on Sunday, I called CPS to find out what their plan was. Lauren told me that she had been on the unit with the dad for 5 hours on that Friday, and safety planned baby to go home with dad, and said that she drug tested him and he was clean, and that he told her that he did not know about mom's drug use during pregnancy.
Okay. Was Social Services at Southern Ohio Medical Center satisfied with that discharge?
No. I told her that wasn't appropriate, that we would hold the baby until we got the umbilical cord results were back, because with mom and baby both being positive, it should be an automatic removal. So I told Lauren that, talked to the maternity nurses and nursery nurses, and they agreed that we would hold the baby until the cord came back to confirm the positive drug screens, and let Lauren know that. And then I called my supervisor, Mandy,
Okay.
and discussed it with her.
And what was Social Services' intent in the event that Children's Services did not agree with you?
We would have called juvenile court Judge Lemons. He would have done what he needed to do to make sure the baby was removed because of the positive drug screens.
Okay, so you were not willing to discharge
No.
baby Dylan to Daniel Groves?
No.
If you would take a look at the other exhibit, I believe it's exhibit 4. And identify that for the record.
This is baby Dylan's medical record.
Okay. And if you would, I think there's a Post-it note there. If you would flip to that page and explain to the jury what those documents are.
This is where I documented in baby Dylan's chart under the newborn substance abuse assessment form. It's where we document all this stuff after the mom has been moved off the unit. So this is where my notes start and then follow up with other social workers after me.
Okay, and essentially those notes are a summary of sort of what you testified in here about
Yes.
today, what happened at the hospital, how you became involved?
Yes.
Okay. Are those a true and accurate representation of what took place out there over that 5-day period?
Yes.
If I could have just a second. I have no further questions at this time, Your Honor.
Mr. Stratton, you may cross-examine the witness.
Thank you, Your Honor. Good afternoon, Mrs. Proctor. What was the...
France. I got
France.
married after this case.
Oh, congratulations.
Thanks.
Let's go back to your interactions with Mrs. Johnson. She is what?
She was the caseworker from Sauter County CPS that was on call the same day that I was involved with this case.
Okay. So you had spoken with her and she had drug tested Daniel, is that correct?
That's what she reported, yes.
She reported to you that she has drug tested Daniel. She wanted to send Dylan home with Daniel?
Yes.
That was against your...
Our recommendation from Southern Ohio Medical Center, yes.
Now, explain that recommendation. Usually, typically, when or in this situation or similar to this situation, when would you not send a baby home with the father?
When mom and baby both are positive, we don't recommend they go home to the family because dad and mom both are in the house.
Okay. So you've never discharged to a family member in a situation like this? I'm assuming that where we're from, we have quite a few of these situations.
We don't make the final decision, but I couldn't say that that's not happened in the past. But in this case, there was active use in the home. Mom and dad are together living in the home. There was nobody else in the home other than a child, so we did not recommend baby go home with.
Okay. At what point would you have recommended it?
In this case,
Never?
I don't know.
Okay. When Mrs. Johnson said that she was going to send Dylan home with Daniel, what was your reply to her?
Told her that we did not feel that was appropriate and that I would contact my supervisor and discuss with the doctor, but we would likely hold the baby until the U-Cord came back because their issue was the positives on the drug screen said unconfirmed.
Okay. Did she argue with you, give you a hard time about it?
She just said that they can't take those unconfirmed positives as positives. If they would have said just positive, she would have agreed it would have been a custody removal at that time. But because it said unconfirmed, she couldn't say that those were two positives.
So she was wanting to send Dylan home to Daniel without clarifying what was going on.
I guess, yes.
Okay. No further questions, Your Honor.
Cross-examine.
Yeah, briefly, Your Honor, thank you. Mrs. Proctor France, you did learn or have a conversation with Lauren Johnson from Children's Services Board that Daniel Groves participated in a drug screen for their agency and that drug screen was clean, correct?
Just what she said, yes.
Okay. The hospital did not test him independently, correct? No. Okay. Did you have any personal discussions or observations of Mr. Groves?
No.
Himself? Okay. Did you ascertain whether or not Jessica Groves was going to be absent from the home if the baby was sent with him per Children's Services Board's instructions?
She just told me that he was unaware of her drug use and that he safety planned the baby home with dad.
And you were not aware of the portion of the safety plan that Jessica Groves would
She said she
stay?
would have supervised visits.
Right, but she would not be residing in the home.
She didn't tell me that.
Okay. Would that have made a difference to you?
I'm not the one that makes the decisions, but
Okay. But you did state in your testimony, though, that it was your policy that you weren't going to send this baby home
It
if
was-
mom was in the home.
it was our understanding that 2 positives weren't automatic custody removal. That's the way it has been in the past up until the point of our labs changing over and the positive going from saying positive to unconfirmed positive. Nothing had changed otherwise on other babies when there was custody removal in that case.
But if you have a parent who's not testing positive for substance addiction, and there is the ability for the other parent who is to stay outside of the home, would that not have been taken into consideration?
That's CPS decision.
Thank you.
Any other questions, Ms. Scott?
No, thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Scott. Any redirect?
No, Your Honor.
Is this witness excused?
Yes, Your Honor.
Yes, Your Honor.
Yes, Your Honor.
And you're free to go. State may call their next witness.
State of Ohio will call Mandy Burchett.
And can you raise your right hand for me, please? Do you solemnly swear the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
And will you please have a seat?
All right.
Thank you. Mr. Teeman, you may inquire.
Thank you. Ma'am, would you state your name for the record?
My name is Amanda Rapp Burchett. I go by Mandy Burchett.
All right. And how do you spell Burchett?
Burchettt.
All right. And are you employed?
Yes, I'm employed at Southern Ohio Medical Center.
What position are you employed in at Southern Ohio Medical Center?
I'm the manager of social work services.
What's your educational background?
I have my bachelor's degree in psychology from Otterbein College and a master's degree in social work from University of Cincinnati.
How long have you been at Southern Ohio Medical Center?
I began my career there in 1998 and I'm on my 22nd year.
How long have you been the manager of social work services at Southern Ohio Medical Center?
I've been in the manager position a year.
Okay. Approximately what was the date that you started? A year from now, so January of 2019?
I started in maybe October of 18.
Okay, so October
Little over,
2018?
yes.
Okay. So in January of 2019, you were already a manager of social work at that
Yes,
point?
I was the manager.
Okay. What are your duties as the manager of social work services at Shawnee, or not Shawnee, at Southern Ohio Medical Center?
I manage the day-to-day operations of our department. We have about 28 social workers. I am available to listen to any of the social workers that might have a question about a patient they're working with or a situation that comes up, to kind of brainstorm what we should do or what the right thing to do is, as well as I do also work in the hospital at times as well as a social worker.
So you actually staff some of the schedule as well
Yes.
in that capacity? Okay. What types of situations does your department address at SOMC?
We address anything that involves crisis. We have social workers that work in the ER. Social worker is at the hospital from 7 a.m. until 2 a.m. daily, and we're on call from 2 a.m. until 7 a.m. if there was a need. We deal with psychiatric emergencies, substance abuse situations, child abuse and neglect, domestic violence, in addition to just discharge planning, which means a person is leaving the hospital and we assure that they have what they need to be able to take care of themselves at home.
In the course of your duties, did you become familiar with the birth of a Dylan Groves?
Yes, I did.
What was your role with regard to this matter?
I was contacted by Kristen Proctor, a social worker, on telling me the situation in which Dylan was ready to be discharged from the hospital on January the 13th. And she was called by the nursery to ask what the plan was, because no one had been notified what the plan that Children's Services had in place. The referral had already been made several days prior.
That's where I was going to go. Let me back you up a little bit as to the protocol. In this type of situation, when do you become involved as the social worker department?
Okay, we're automatically consulted on maternity cases for any mother that's had substance abuse during her pregnancy or a history of substance abuse. We see every mom that has 3 or less prenatal visits, in addition to if there's any concerns of maybe a minor having a baby, any sort of situation that doesn't seem quite right. We just kind of get in there and investigate a little bit.
Okay, so any non-routine family dynamic would be a
Yes.
fair way to say it? Okay. So in this case, when you got involved, the call had already been made to Children's Services.
Correct.
And typically, what's the protocol with the interaction between your agency and Children's Services?
We make the initial referral, and we will wait for Children's Services to call us back with what their intent is, or we will call them if we don't know. We also will notify them of any anticipated discharge. In the situation with our NAS babies, we let them know if their Finnegan scores are going up, if we anticipate that they're going to be started on medicine to help with the withdrawals, and that's our typical process.
Okay, and NAS again means?
Neonatal abstinence syndrome.
Thank you. And was there some type of delay with learning what Children's Services' plan was with regard to baby Dylan?
There was. The nursery called Kristen Proctor. She was working in the emergency department on that Sunday, and she called to ask what the plan was. She called and spoke with Lauren Johnson at Children's Services and was told that the plan was that they had safety planned it, and the baby was to go home with the father.
Was there any concern with this relating of a safety plan from your agency, from your department?
We did have concerns. The concern was that the mother and the baby were both positive for methamphetamine, which in my experience as a social worker at the hospital warrants a removal.
Was there any confusion that you were alerted to with regard to the testing process that SOMC did?
Could you repeat the question?
Sure. With regard to the testing, the positive drug test results, was there any confusion or misunderstanding as to those kind of results?
What Lauren told Kristen was that because it was an unconfirmed positive screen, that they could not remove custody.
All right. We've had some nurses testify, but can you explain the nature of an unconfirmed positive test at SOMC?
Sure. And I reached out to Bridget Scott. She's the director of our laboratory, so that I'd have an understanding before this happened, actually. And it means the same. So we typically had positive or negative. That's what it said before they changed the machine. The accrediting board that our lab is accredited by, we had to switch the machine. So when we did that, it says unconfirmed pause, or, I don't know, it might say negative. I don't want to say for sure. It's probably unconfirmed neg. And both of those tests are the same, positive or unconfirmed positive. What the test does when you do a urine drug screen is it detects that there's a substance present. It does not quantify how much or of the substance is present, just that there is a substance present. And then at that point, we will send the urine off to another lab. In this case, it was Mayo Clinic, to quantify it, to break it down so that we know exactly what was in the urine.
All right. So at the point you're talking with Children's Services, you have an unconfirmed positive from baby Dylan, and an unconfirmed positive from the mother, Mrs. Grove.
Yes.
Okay. And had Children's Services, when did this change in the machine take place to your knowledge? If you know?
It changed on November 11th, 2018.
Okay. So before baby Dylan was born.
Correct.
Was this change, was Children's Services notified of this change in the language of the results?
Soon after we noticed the difference, and I had contacted Bridget Scott, I had called and spoke with one of the Children's Services supervisors to ask if this was going to cause an issue because of the wording.
All right. Was there any indication from Children's Services if this would be an issue for them?
The conversation didn't go any farther than that. It was something that we were going to follow up on in the future. We had not had any problems, so I assumed it was going well because they had removed custody of other children with the same results, 2 unconfirmed positives.
Okay. And then apparently it became an issue with baby Dylan.
It did.
Were you able to get that issue resolved to your satisfaction with Children's Services?
I was the social worker on Sunday is when Kristen got the call, and we did not release the baby. On Monday, I was the social worker, and I called Kelly Burgess, who was the supervisor at Children's Services. I was told by her that they cannot remove custody because of the unconfirmed positive, and that the baby would have to go home with the father. I questioned why that. I questioned that decision because it wasn't based upon decisions that have been made in the past.
Okay. And ultimately, how was the placement resolved?
On Monday, Children's Services was waiting for us to get quantitative results of being either the cord that comes back or the urine, which we had sent out to the lab. And we're talking with their her management, I'm not sure who at Children's Services, to decide what to do. So a decision wasn't made on Monday. On Tuesday, the situation remained the same, where they were not wanting to remove custody, and the baby had been ready since Sunday to leave. And at that point, I asked them to please make a decision by a certain time, and I can't remember the time. And at that point, if a decision to remove the baby had not been made, that I would reach out to our county's juvenile judge, Lemons.
Okay. Tuesday was, I believe, January 15th, to your recollection.
Correct.
Is that correct? Okay. Did you receive any confirming results on the 15th?
On the toxicology?
Yes, ma'am.
We did. On that day, we got the cord results back.
And the results were confirmed at that point?
They were confirmed at that point.
So at that point, what happened with regard to baby Dylan?
I wasn't notified from Children's Services after that. Toward the end of the day, I called the nursery and was told that the baby was going to foster care.
Okay. Thank you, ma'am. No further questions, Your Honor.
Chairman, Mr. Stratton,
Yes, John.
cross-examine the witness.
Good afternoon, Mrs. Person.
Good afternoon.
So, let me just clarify some things here. You presented a lot of information. I just want to sort of get a timeline on how things went.
Okay.
In November of 2018 is when you switched over to this new machine
Correct.
that changed a positive to either a confirmed positive or an unconfirmed positive.
Correct.
Okay, all right. And that Children's Services had been notified of that change.
I had a conversation with one of the supervisors.
And after that conversation, there had been other children who had been removed on unconfirmed positive tests, correct?
Correct.
Okay. And had there ever been an issue up until Dylan's removal of a problem with unconfirmed positive tests?
There had not been an issue.
Okay. Just generally, how many kids do you think were removed on unconfirmed positive tests?
I don't have any knowledge of that.
Okay, all right. So, Lauren Johnson, have you had many interactions with her? Or is
I
this
have
the first?
had interactions outside of Children's Services.
Okay, is this your first interaction with her with Children's Services?
No.
No, okay, all right. Lauren Johnson said to you that we are not going to remove him on unconfirmed tests, is that correct?
That is not correct. Kristen Proctor talked to her
Kristen
on Sunday
Proctor.
night,
Okay, but she's relaying that info.
and she relayed that to me.
Okay. Did you have to, I hate to use this word, and I apologize, but did you have to threaten Children's Services that you were going to call the juvenile court to get them to act on a removal of custody?
I had to assure that the baby was safe, knowing that calling the judge is an option if we disagree. We have a protocol in place for that as well. I was going to do that if a decision hadn't been made to remove.
Okay. So you were going to call juvenile court if Children's Services did not remove custody?
Correct.
Okay, all right. But you did not make that call?
I did not, because they removed custody.
Okay. They changed their mind, didn't they?
I don't know if they changed their mind. I don't.
Okay. No further questions, Your Honor.
Mr. Stratton, Ms. Scott, you may cross-examine.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
As your duties there at the hospital in this manager of social workers or in your social working role, did you have interaction with either Jessica or Daniel Groves yourself personally?
I did not.
Okay, so you did not get any intake information from them?
I did not.
Okay, and your worker, your social worker, Kristen Proctor France, she was the one that dealt with, mainly with also Children's Services Agency. Is that
She's the one
correct?
that dealt with Children's Services that night.
Okay,
Yes.
and do you know if she had any interaction with the parents in forming what you all had decided to do in this case?
She did not have interaction with the parents. We had another social worker that actually did the assessment.
Okay, and then if you did not have any interaction with either of the Groves and Kristen Proctor-France did not have any interaction with the Groves, you would not have ascertained the information then from Mr. Groves that he could have taken the baby home alone and that Jessica Groves had someplace else to reside.
I was unaware of CPS's plan for that, and I had not spoke to him. We work together as a team with the social work department and the nurses and the staff there, and there is documentation indicating the interaction that the social worker that did assess them had, so I was able to refer to that. But I was not, to answer your question directly, I have not talked to Mr. Groves too.
Okay. So somehow that piece of the information got missed by your department, correct?
It was not missed, it was never told.
Okay. Although Lauren Johnson was communicating directly with Kristen Proctor-France, you're saying that that was not relayed as well to
She
her?
did, on that Sunday night is when we were told what the plan was.
Okay. And that it was for Mr. Groves to take the child home and Mrs. Groves would not reside in the residence?
Correct, and that, yes, she had done a drug test on him and that he had passed.
And so although you had that information on Sunday, you were still not recommending that the child would go home with Mr. Groves?
Correct,
By himself?
Correct.
Although Mrs. Groves would be outside of the residence?
correct.
And were you aware that he had also passed the drug screen for Children's Services as well?
I cannot recall if that information was relayed to me that following day.
Okay. So the basis that Kristen Proctor-France stated that she was very insistent upon the child not going home is because the baby had a positive screen and mom had a positive screen and the parents were married and would likely live together, correct?
Correct.
However, once you learned that mother would not be present or could not be present in the home, somehow that didn't change
It
your-
did not, like, we are a team at the hospital, so while I hadn't met with them personally, I went to the nursery, I had talked to nurses that had interactions with both of them, and they were able to verbalize their concern due to the interaction that they had with Mr. Groves, that this would not be a safe place for the baby to go.
But that was nothing that you obtained personally?
I did not obtain that information personally.
Okay. And are these things that are documented in your assessment and report, these other conversations?
I documented that I had spoke with RN Chantel Spears and the nurse manager Teresa Ruby, who informed me further of the Children's Services plan, and that I had talked to them to gain information to warrant my calling Children's Services and persisting that the return of the baby to the home was not safe.
But did you document the specific conversations of these individuals about Mr. Groves' interaction with them? Not that they drew that conclusion, but their
Right.
specific conversations.
I did not directly document word for word what they told me.
And why not?
It wasn't something that, I don't know why I did not, but I did not.
But wasn't it a basis of your conclusion for your insistence that this child not go home with him?
It was, and due to my working many years as a social worker, I trusted what my team was telling me, and that it did not seem that that would be a good choice.
But it wasn't important enough to document what their conversations were.
I did not document it.
Okay, thank you.
Any further questions, Ms. Scott?
No questions, thank you.
Keenan, any redirect?
No redirect. Thank you, ma'am.
Is this witness free to go?
She is, as far as the state's concerned.
Yes, Your Honor.
Scott?
Yes, thank you.
And you're free to go. State may call their next witness.
Your Honor, may we approach?
You may. Ms. Hutchinson, is this your witness?
It is.
Do you want to proceed without Mr. Teeman, or do you want to give him a couple minutes to get back?
Judge, that's up to you.
Why don't you call your next witness?
Judge, the state would call Stephanie Jenkins.
Ma'am, will you raise your right hand for me, please? Do you solemnly swear the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? Ma'am, please have a seat.
Thank you, Your Honor. Ma'am, if you would, please introduce yourself to our jury and spell your last name for the record.
My name is Stephanie Jenkins, Jenkins. I work for Scioto County Help Me Grow as the service coordinator.
Okay. If you would, explain to the members of the jury what Scioto County Help Me Grow is.
Help Me Grow has two different programs. We have a home visiting program, and we also have an early intervention program. And I'm the service coordinator for the early intervention program. We receive referrals from different agencies. CPS will refer children under the age of 3 that come in contact with them to us. We get referrals from doctors. Anyone can make the referral to us. We're a program from birth to age 3. We work with children who have suspected disabilities or some kind of delays. We have a team that will come in and work with the families, work with the parents and the children to help them get caught up and developmentally where they should be.
Okay. Where is Help Me Grow located?
We are through the South Central Ohio Educational Service Center in New Boston. Our actual office is in the Carousel Center here in Portsmouth.
Okay. And you said you've been there how long?
5 years.
5 years. Okay. And I think you kind of explained what you do as far as helping with other agencies and getting referrals. If you would, explain to the jury how you became involved in the Dylan Groves referral.
We received a referral from Children's Services in Scioto County on January 25th. And that was just a typical referral that they refer when a child's involved with Children's Services.
Okay. And is participation in Help Me Grow, as far as on your end, as far as you're concerned, voluntary?
Yes.
Okay. Can it sometimes be required by Children's Services?
Yes.
Okay. And you said you received this referral from Children's Services?
Yes.
Okay. Let me ask you, as part of the normal course of business there at Help Me Grow, do you guys maintain records of referrals and notes that you keep in regards to each referral?
Yes, we do.
Okay. Let me hand you what's going to be marked as State's Exhibit 8. Record reflect I'm showing this to the defense counsel. Ma'am, if you could take a look at State's Exhibit 8. Can you identify this for the record?
Yes, this is the record that we have for Dylan.
Okay. And you said that referral came to you on what date?
Let me get back to let's see. I received the referral on January 25th
Okay.
of 2019.
And did you bring a copy of those records with you also?
Yes, I did.
Okay. And are they the same records that we have here today?
Yes, they are.
Okay. So if you would explain to the members of the jury what efforts Help Me Grow made to make contact with this family.
First, when the referral came with Andrea Bowling listed as the foster parent. However, at that time, our rules and regulations says we have to try to contact the biological parent. So I attempted to call Jessica Groves at the number that was listed on the referral, and I got a voicemail saying she was not available. So then the next day, on the 31st, I attempted to call Children's Services to talk with a caseworker. I left a voicemail, and then Patricia got back with me.
Let me interrupt you just for a second. On the referral, you said you contacted a number that was listed for the mother, Jessica Groves.
Yes.
What address was listed for the parents of Dylan Groves?
2241 Mount Hope Road, Otway, Ohio.
Okay. And there are some reasons listed for the referral, is that right?
Yes.
Okay, if you would explain those to what Children's Services submitted to you as their reason for referral.
Their reason was child is a victim of substantiated abuse or neglect. And then it says that Dylan was in protective custody. It also, reason for referral was child was born affected by illegal substance abuse or has been diagnosed with drug withdrawal symptoms by a physician resulting from prenatal drug exposure.
Okay. So you said you made an attempt to contact mom at the number that you were provided.
Yes.
And that attempt was unsuccessful.
Correct.
Okay, and then thereafter you contacted a caseworker.
Yes.
Tell the members of the jury why you contacted that caseworker and what your plan was from there.
I contacted the caseworker. That's just our protocol to get some more information, to make sure that our contact information on the referral hadn't changed. Patricia did tell me that mom had the same, because on the address listed was Mount Hope Road, but she said that Daniel Groves had Dylan and his address was the same. And she had told me that mom wasn't staying there at the home with dad
And was she able to provide to you a phone number or phone contact information for Daniel Groves?
Yes, she did.
Okay. And did you attempt to contact Daniel Groves?
On that day, she had gave me a phone number and had also let me know when I asked when she was going out for a visit. She was going out the very next day for a visit for what she said was a 7-day checkup. And so I just asked her if I could meet out there at the same time, and that way I could explain the program and go over it at that time. She said that would be fine. So I attempted to call Daniel to try to let him know that and talk with him about the program. I left a voicemail on his phone that I would be out there at the same time as Patricia. And if that did not work, I gave a number to call me back.
Okay. And ultimately that did not work out, is that right?
That was correct.
Okay. But you also made further attempts to contact, before I get there, was your call ever returned by Daniel Groves?
No.
Okay. And then you made additional attempts to contact Daniel Groves, is that correct?
Yes, and by phone and by letter.
Okay, if you would, give the jury those dates that you attempted to make contact and what type of contact you attempted to make.
I tried to contact him on February 1st because that was the day I was supposed to go out and meet Patricia at the home. But the school district was closed because of severe weather. And our policy is if the school district is closed that we don't go out, or we call and see how the roads are. So I did call Patricia at Children's Services and let her know that I would not be out there because of the weather, that I would reschedule that. And then I also called Daniel and left another voicemail saying that I would not be out that day because the day before I had called and had left a voicemail that I'd be
Okay,
out.
so that would be February 1st?
Yes.
Did you receive a call back from Daniel Groves?
No, I did not.
Okay, and then you called him again on February 4th and 5th.
And left voicemails both of those days.
Did you receive any call back from Daniel Groves?
No, I did not.
Okay. And it's my understanding that at some point you also mailed letters to the family.
Yes, I did. When I could not reach him by phone, I contacted the caseworker again to see if there was any changes in the phone number to make sure I was calling the right number. And then I mailed it was on the 8th that she let me know that she had been out there and had got her, it was on the 8th that I talked to her, and she had been out previously and got her vehicle stuck in the driveway. She did tell me at that time that, let's see, she wouldn't suggest trying to make it out there. And then I spoke to Patricia again on the 19th of February, and she said that to see what happened with court, she said that placement remained at that time with Dad.
And did you also mail a letter on February 19th?
Yes, I did. I mailed a letter. I let the caseworker know that I was unable to reach him and that I was mailing the letter, and I mailed a letter to Daniel.
Okay. And then you attempted to make phone contact with him again on February 28th, is that right?
Yes, and I got the voicemail again.
And then again, you mailed a letter on March 1st.
Yes.
Okay. What ultimately happened with the referral on baby Dylan Groves?
Ultimately, he was exited from our program on March 11th because there was no contact with the family. I was not able to reach them, and they never returned calls or attempted to contact us back from the letters or the voicemails.
Okay. And what other resources can you connect caretakers to if they are in fact cooperative?
Well, we have a home visiting program that we have someone that comes out to the home. They help work with the parents, work with the children doing activities, helping with the family to let them know developmentally what's expected. They do screenings and monitor the progress of the child. They can help refer to other programs.
What types of other programs?
If a child needs WIC, or if they need Head Start when they're close to we help transition the children from both programs at age 3 when they get older.
Medical card,
food stamps, anything, any
access,
any therapies, or if they need transportation. Basically, anything that they would need help with, we could try to access. Or if we don't have a way to help them, then we can get them to the proper people that can help them.
But you never heard from anyone in this family regarding this baby?
No, I did not.
If I could have just 1 second. I have nothing further at this time, Your Honor.
Thank you, Ms. Hutchinson. Mr. Stratton, you may cross-examine the witness.
I just have Mrs. Jenkins, good afternoon.
Yes.
I just have a couple questions, just to clarify things. That 7-day home visit that you had planned on going with Mrs. Kraft to, that was scheduled for the 4th of February, is that correct?
No, that was scheduled for February 1st.
February 1st?
Yes, and the 7-day, that's just what I was told by the caseworker, that they have to go out after they've been at the home for 7 days.
Okay. You contacted Mrs. Kraft and said you couldn't go because of
Because of the weather.
the weather?
Yeah,
Okay.
because the school district was closed.
School district's closed, okay, all right. Did you follow up with Mrs. Kraft about going to any of the other visits?
No, typically we don't go to the visits at the same time as they do. If we need to contact the family and haven't been able to reach them, then we usually try to reach out to.
Okay, but did you at any time attempt another visit at the residence or plan on attempting another visit at the residence?
No, we typically try to reach them through calling, through text, or whatever method we can as far as calling or mail.
So you never went out to the property?
No, I did not.
Okay. No further questions.
Thank you, Mr. Stratton. Ms. Scott, you may cross-examine.
Yes, Your Honor, thank you. Good afternoon. I believe that you stated in your early on in your direct testimony that this program is a voluntary program. Is that correct?
For us, Help Me Grow is a voluntary program.
Okay. And I know that you will also ask that sometimes it could be a requirement of Children's Services.
Correct.
Do you know if it was a requirement of Children's Services in this case?
In this particular case, I'm not sure.
Okay, so from your perspective and your agency's perspective, this was a completely voluntary thing if this family wanted to participate in it, correct? From what you know?
From what I know.
Not a trick question.
Right.
But from what you know. Okay, thank you.
Further questions, Ms. Scott?
No further questions, thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Hutchinson, any redirect?
No, Your Honor.
Is this witness excused?
Yes, Your Honor.
Excused.
Yes, Your Honor.
Ma'am, you're free to go.
Your Honor, may we approach?
You may.